All right, Fantomos, vamonos. What do you got for us?
Well, yeah, I just want to say regarding sending UFO, getting UFOs summoned here to summon them on Earth, to have them land. The first thing that comes to mind is the fact that why exactly, why exactly does the U.S. military think they're the best option to qualify for this? And you'll see this in the podcasts. You'll see this in the TV series. All of a sudden, they come out, and it's like the elephant in the room. It's like they can't read a room because when you think about it, if I was another being, I would not trust somebody who has inferior technology to me, who wants to know more about me, especially when it comes to the subject of weapons and transportation and all of that.
Yeah, absolutely. So, what do you
That
think
makes sense.
of? What? So, what do you think about? You know, I guess what would your answer be to should? I'm gonna go back to the beginning question. Should we
Yeah.
be, you know, actively bringing down these craft, like shooting them down? I guess is the best way to say, luring them in and shooting them down. What do you think of that?
I mean, I think the question answers itself, but also I think the other problem is like
Yeah, it does.
more and more we hear about stories about the radiation. So why would you do that? Why would you want to risk that the
Mm,
radiation levels going up if you
mm.
were to shoot something down like this? I'm just not
Another
quite
great
getting
point.
understanding like
What
the
is
whole point
the?
of that.
Yeah. So what? Like,
Yeah,
what is the? If someone says yes, what are
The
they
danger.
like? What are they? Why do they think we should do it? Right. Like, so I hear what you're saying. No, these are great. These are all great points. These are all great questions. What is the cause and effect of doing that? Right. By shooting this down, what about radiation? What if there's other biological effects, diseases that the thing has? If you touch, you know what I mean? Like, we don't know. What if, have you guys not seen every alien movie that's ever been produced? I mean, alien, when I say alien, I just mean ET movie. There's always a black goo, guys. There's always a black goo that gets loose on the planet. And you know what I'm saying? Like, we don't know. Why are we bringing it down? And what about it
That's a fear-based
crashing?
narrative, Patrick.
I'm just saying you
I
have
mean,
to be aware. It's like, why do you put on a seatbelt when you go in a car? Why do you know what I mean? Why do we do certain things? You prepare doesn't mean you
Yeah,
think it's
train.
going to happen, but you're just, why wouldn't you think that? Like, why wouldn't you prepare
Up
for
in the
that?
battlefield.
Yeah, why wouldn't you prepare? Well, what if I shoot this craft down? Well, we think it's going to land on the range here. But yeah, but what if it
Don't be
shoots off
covered,
10
right?
miles first before it crashes and crashes into a school? Right? We don't know what it's going to do. What if it crashes like a balloon? You ever let the air out of a balloon and it just zips around everywhere and goes everywhere? You don't even know where it goes. What if that's what happens when you hit a craft? It
Whole
zips
to the
around, and
planet.
you know what I'm saying? It just does some crazy shit first before it crashes, or it implements some anti-defense, shit that we weren't prepared for, and it starts shooting laser. I mean, it sounds a little hyperbolic, but I mean, fuck, if we don't know what this thing is, how can we say that none of that's going to happen if we don't
Yeah,
know?
there's no way.
You know what I mean? There is no
Yeah.
way.
it's like
So,
intergalactic hornets or something when you
yeah.
start messing with this stuff.
Yeah, bro. That's it. It's a cosmic beehive, y'all. I love it. And that is a great way to put
Yeah.
it. Like, why kick the beehive? We don't know what, like, how would anybody be happy about that? Let's ask this
This is
question. How would we take it if someone shot down our F-35 over Afghanistan? What do we do?
Mm.
We would take it as an act of warfare, right? I
Right?
mean,
Yeah.
immediately that's your response. And let's say we're on another planet. Let's say we are traveling with space and they shoot down, we send a craft over Mars and it gets shot down by some alien species. Are we going to be thinking, oh, they probably just want to be our friends? No, we're thinking, oh shit, they just shot down our craft. You know, let's get
Yeah.
Bruce Willis and Ben Affleck up here in a spaceship and do something about it.
this is this is why the whole disclosure thing is so important because the basis from what we understand from all the different narratives, Elizondo, Grush, everybody, nobody has a broader image of what they're trying to do here.
Yeah.
So when you don't know the intent, this is the time that you should disclose because you don't know what it does. So everybody should have a collective like research and trying to figure out why they're here. Like look into it. The whole like population should know. This is why this is even stranger when you're trying to keep under wraps, gatekeep an information that you're in the inside that knows stuff, don't even know the full extent of it.
No, absolutely.
This is why this is
Phantomos, give us your last thoughts, man. Then I'm gonna put you down so I can bring up some more people. But any final thoughts that you have or whatever else, please.
Okay. Well, one question to add on to that.
Sure.
What if it's the opposite effect and you shoot down one of the good UFOs and then you get the maniacal aliens coming after you because you just shot their...
Bro, great, great point. I love that. And that's,
Right.
Shit, we were here to help y'all. That's funny. Yeah. Great point. I mean,
it just becomes like the Mars Attack sequel,
Totally, dude. I mean, we're joking, we're laughing, but that's that's a great question, and that's a valid point to bring up. So, no, appreciate you, man. Great points you brought up, Phantomos, and really appreciate you coming up, brother. Thank you so much.
All right, like the show later.
Hey, thank you.
Good chat, man. Good
Todd,
chat,
can you bring up Veronique? Am I saying that right?
Yes. Yep. There we go. You should be able to accept the invite, Veronique.
Yeah.
Hey, there she is.
First of all, introduce yourself with your name so that we pronounce it right when we address you, please. You're muted, by the way. There's a mute button somewhere. I don't know where it is on your screen.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes,
there
please.
you go.
Yeah.
Okay.
Please say your name for us so that we get it right.
So, yeah, my name is Veronique, and I'm calling you from Switzerland, Geneva.
Love it.
Awesome.
Welcome. This is awesome. Love it so much.
Okay, so yeah, my question was, it's more like a comment. As you know, here in Switzerland, we are all neutral, okay? We've never been into any war.
Yeah.
And my question was like, Mr. Barber or Elizondo are all into shooting down a VNHIs just to study or whatever. But here, we are absolutely not a country that would go into a war. And my question was about is there any agreement between, for example, Mr. Barber and the US, for example, to shoot down? And is there any discussion at a higher level to do something like that? Because we don't know the consequences. And I think it's very, very important to have a high-level discussion about doing something like that, and not only one country like the US to decide maybe to come into war with the NHIs.
Great point.
Good point.
Really, that's top level point, y'all. That's forced to the trees point, right? That's a top of the pyramid point. Great point, Veronique. I love that name. Love your accent too.
Sorry,
everybody loves your accent.
Trying to speak English.
Are you kidding me? It sounds
everybody
great.
loves your accent.
Yeah.
Don't change it. Everybody loves it. Everybody's saying in the chat how much they love.
I'm used to accents. My wife has a thick accent from Spain. My mom's from Mexico. Like
okay.
I'm used to accents. Trust me. No, you bring up a great point, and I've asked this question about many things in the UFO community. Who's not just this point, but like who's controlling disclosure? Why is there no big discussion about this, right? Who's deciding for all of us? The same thing with this that you're saying, right? Why should America or even some private company decide to do something like that without, it should be a global discussion, and it should be a decision that we all make because, it affects us all. So if it affects everybody globally, then we absolutely should be making the decision globally, and I think that's a great point. Let me ask you this, Veronique. How would you suggest going about doing something like that? Like setting up for us to talk, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, right now the NATO is, I mean, you know,
Yeah.
it's difficult to involve NATO right now because of the politics. But at the same time, before it was, it would have been the best way to discuss something like that. Maybe even all the countries are not represented in NATO. But look, I'm here in Geneva, and we have all the big representations for all the countries. And I think a question like that has to be discussed before shooting down or before even coming into contact with them. So I think Europe is a great place for us in Europe, but something like that, I think it's not about just the US, and really like maybe like a big, I don't know the word in English, but referendum, something where everybody could vote and say, okay, let's move on with NHIs and do something.
No,
you
great
know,
point.
you'd have to have a
Referendum,
consensus reality first, though, right? Like right
To
now,
some
we don't
extent.
have a consensus reality on this topic,
Sure.
and so in order to have a referendum, as you say, which is a great word, by the way, we need people to acknowledge that this is a real thing. While the group of people that are in here right now are very passionate about it, let's face it.
And
we
I
don't
understand
have
that as
Yeah.
well, because
Yeah.
here, you know, we are very, I mean, the UFO community here in Europe is very impatient that something happens, you know, and I understand, and I'm very curious to know what would happen if. But at the same time, I'm like, okay, but how comes that one country, the US, is deciding about maybe our future doing that?
I
Yeah,
agree.
I mean,
exactly.
I agree.
Exactly. Like
great
this
point.
is,
Yeah.
I couldn't agree more, because I am so glad somebody from Europe shares the same thought as me. No country should be responsible for other countries for a truth that is universal.
Humanity, not just countries. Humanity as a
Yeah,
whole.
that's the point.
I mean, who cares that you guys had Roswell? Like, who cares?
Yeah.
Like,
I
we
agree.
had so many incidents in Europe, like gigantic incidents.
Now, hang on here.
Exactly.
America's awesome. Okay, let me just put down the table. America.
Yeah,
I'm joking.
stop
I'm
talking
joking.
on my country,
I'm
man.
joking. I'm joking. Look, this is a really good point, and I think it affects. It's a point that covers a lot of the UFO topic. Again, like I said, you know, Ronnie, she made a great point of like just contact with them should be also decided globally, right? And what kind of contact, and what we would discuss, and what are the first questions we would ask, and if they said XYZ to these answers, we would do this, you know, all of it, right? It should be a global discussion moving forward of how we interact with them, what kind of deals we make with them, what everything, right? If we decide to shoot them down or not, or what, you know, I agree with all of that. And I think, Todd, you made a great point too about, well, do we all have a shared reality, right? And that could be a roadblock to having that discussion. But, you know, you could, you know, my pushback to that would be, well, we would just say it like, let's assume, like, even if you don't believe it, if it were to happen, how would you want this to play out, right? Does that make sense? So
Exactly.
you kind of just like building a bunker or having a nuclear fallout plan, right? Like it hasn't happened yet, but you're preparing for it. So even if you don't believe in it, you can still, you know, be a part of the conversation of what you would like to see happen if it were real. And if people thought it were real, they could, you know, you could still come to the same conclusions and have the same discussion. The problem is, you know, I think bigger than that, it's not if it's a shared reality, it's just more so many countries don't get along. And even just getting them to talk about anything could be an issue. But, you know, at that point, you just say, hey, all of us are getting together to talk about this. It may be the majority of the global audience being a part of it. And I'm sure you would have some countries or some cultures or some people that wouldn't want to be a part of it. That's fine. We can't get everybody. But if the majority of the global audience was involved with this, especially leaders, that I agree that would be a step in the right direction.
Yeah, for sure.
Thank you.
For sure.
Thank you for this discussion. And thank you to Vetted. You are an amazing podcast.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that.